os idiomas chinês, inglês e português. A ferramenta poderá ser acessada na barra inferior da plataforma Zoom, do lado direito, no ícone Interpretação. This event has simultaneous translation for Chinese, English, and Portuguese. You can activate it on the right side of the Zoom's lower bar at the icon Interpretation. Nós temos a honra de ter conosco hoje o meu velho amigo e colega Yang Wanming, embaixador da República Popular da China no Brasil. Nós dois nos conhecemos há cerca de 15 anos, quando eu era embaixador em Pequim e ele estava no Departamento da América Latina do Huaijiaopu, Ministério dos Negócios Estrangeiros da China. Embaixador Wanming, muito obrigado por sua presença. Nos debates que tivemos ontem, ficou patente a necessidade de Brasil e China aumentarem a sua cooperação e intercâmbio nas áreas de finanças verdes e agricultura sustentável. O ministro da Agricultura da China, Tang Renjian, apresentou 4 propostas para aprofundar a cooperação bilateral: aprendizagem mútua, fortalecimento da inovação tecnológica, fomento ao comércio bilateral. Alinhando projetos de investimento e comércio e consolidação da cooperação em organismos multilaterais, a ministra Tereza Cristina, da Agricultura, disse que o Brasil tem um dos maiores programas de agricultura de baixo carbono do mundo, Plano ABC+, que já levou à adoção de tecnologias de baixo carbono em 20% da área cultivada do país. O Diálogo Brasil-China sobre Agricultura Sustentável conta, por seu turno, com o patrocínio da Bayer, da BRF e da Suzano, empresas que têm a sustentabilidade como valor fundamental em sua atuação e cuja essa atuação se tem pautado por pioneirismo em matéria de sustentabilidade. Daremos continuidade ao debate com painéis que abordarão as questões da biodiversidade, primeiro painel, e da economia circular. Mas antes deles, vamos ouvir as palavras do embaixador Yang Wanming. Embaixador Yang, a palavra é sua.
Estimado senhor embaixador Castro Neves, presidente do Conselho Empresarial Brasil-China, prezados senhores acadêmicos, empresários e representantes de instituições financeiras. Bom dia e boa noite a todos. Quero, em primeiro lugar, agradecer pelo convite do Conselho Empresarial Brasil-China e do Instituto de Finanças e Sustentabilidade. É uma imensa alegria participar deste encontro virtual com os senhores amigos brasileiros e chineses. O painel de hoje tem um significado real e de longo alcance. Preservar a biodiversidade e promover uma agricultura sustentável são medidas de importância estratégica sustentável são as medidas de importância estratégica para a segurança ecológica nacional, a segurança agrícola e a segurança alimentar de cada país. Trata-se de uma escolha natural para construir uma comunidade de vida entre o homem e a natureza, acelerar a transição verde da agricultura e proteger a biodiversidade não só constituem uma missão comum da comunidade internacional, como também atendem às necessidades de desenvolvimento sustentável na China e no Brasil. O agronegócio sino-brasileiro complementar e benéfico para ambos os lados é uma das áreas mais desenvolvidas, dinâmicas e promissoras da parceria bilateral. Nos últimos 13 anos, a China tem sido o maior comprador de produtos agropecuários do Brasil. Mesmo no contexto da pandemia, a exportação brasileira desses itens continua a manter um crescimento acelerado. Além disso, o Brasil é um país da América do Sul que recebe a maior parte dos investimentos chineses na área da agricultura. Diante dos desafios, estamos dispostos a unir esforços junto com o lado brasileiro para abrir um caminho de cooperação agrícola dentro dos parâmetros de eficiência, segurança, conservação de recursos e sustentabilidade ambiental, com destaques nas seguintes áreas. Primeiro, aumentar o diálogo e o alinhamento de políticas. Atualmente, a China está empenhada em fomentar uma agricultura de baixo carbono, com a divulgação de tecnologias verdes de produção para melhorar a taxa de aproveitamento de terras aráveis, água doce e outros recursos. Reforçamos o controle da poluição agrícola e ampliamos a disponibilidade de produtos de agro, seguros e orgânicos. A parte chinesa está disposta a fazer melhor proveito dos mecanismos de diálogo e consulta entre as autoridades agrícolas dos dois países. Vamos promover uma comunicação mais frequente entre associações, empresas e instituições de pesquisa no setor da agricultura, a fim de aprender reciprocamente as boas práticas na transição verde de agricultura e criar um novo modelo sustentável e reciclável da nossa parceria nesse tempo. Em outubro deste ano, a China vai sediar a COP15 da Convenção sobre Diversidade Biológica e espera estreitar a coordenação com o lado brasileiro no âmbito multilateral sobre a proteção de biodiversidade e a mudança climática. Em segundo lugar, fortalecer a parceria em ciência e tecnologia agrícolas. Nossos países têm uma boa base nessa área. Foi no Brasil que a China instalou seu primeiro laboratório conjunto de ciências agrícolas no exterior. A Lonping High-Tech, uma importante empresa do setor de ciência e tecnologia agrícolas, tem no Brasil um banco de recursos de germoplasma. Em projetos piloto implementados nos estados de Goiás e Amazonas, a tecnologia 5G e inteligência artificial da Huawei viabilizaram respostas eficientes às doenças das culturas e o aumento da produtividade. Espero que empresas possam intensificar a cooperação em áreas emergentes, como agricultura inteligente, agricultura verde e agricultura orgânica. Elevar o grau de inteligência, automatização e competitividade internacional da agricultura de ambos os países. Por fim, podemos diversificar a parceria em finanças verdes. O financiamento é uma importante alavanca para o desenvolvimento de agricultura verde. Tanto a China como o Brasil lançaram vários produtos de finanças verdes, como as partes participantes bem diversificados. Atualmente, 6 grandes instituições financeiras da China mantêm filial ou escritório no Brasil e acumularam grande experiência de investimento e financiamento no mercado local. Essas instituições, junto com seus parceiros brasileiros, podem identificar melhor as demandas do agronegócio para inovar seus produtos e serviços de finanças verdes. Também podemos fazer melhor uso de plataformas e recursos do Fundo de Investimento em Cooperação Industrial China, América Latina, do novo Banco de Desenvolvimento, do Fundo de Cooperação China-Brasil para a expansão da capacidade produtiva e do Banco Asiático de Investimento em Infraestrutura. São mecanismos que certamente diversificarão as alternativas de financiamento para projetos de agricultura sustentável. Senhoras e senhores, a China e o Brasil compartilham amplos interesses comuns e grande potencial de cooperação nas agendas de agricultura sustentável e de biodiversidade. Tem todas as condições para a cooperação mais diversificada e mutuamente benéfica, a fim de alcançar juntos o desenvolvimento sustentável e contribuindo a todo o mundo. Em vista disso, será um prazer ouvir suas ideias neste evento e desejo todo sucesso para este evento. Obrigado, senhor embaixador Neves.
Muito obrigado, embaixador Yang Guangming. Enfim, muito obrigado pelas suas palavras. E eu devo comentar que o seu português está cada vez mais impecável.
Obrigado.
Parabéns por isso. E passo a palavra agora ao Rodrigo Lima, que será o moderador do próximo painel sobre agricultura sustentável e biodiversidade. Rodrigo, a palavra é sua.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Luis Augusto. Good morning, good night, everyone. My name is Rodrigo Lima, Managing Partner of Agroecony, and it's a pleasure to moderate this panel from the Brasil-China Dialogue on Sustainable Agriculture. Thanks for the invitation of the China-Brazil Business Council. It's a pleasure to be here, and I will moderate the panel related to sustainable agriculture and biodiversity, as highlighted by Ambassador Yuanming, the COP15 that will take place in Kunming, China this year. It's an extremely relevant conference to agree what we call at the negotiations the future biodiversity framework with new targets to drive biodiversity action to the next decades. So in light of this, I will present our panelists and start the debates. Every panelist will have around 8 minutes to do its presentation, and then we will have a session of debates. So I will firstly present the panelists and then call each one in order. Our first panelist is Ms. Andrea Alvarez, Chief Brand Innovation, International and Sustainability Officer at Natura. Welcome, Andrea. Our second panelist is Ms. Yuan Jingzhou, a member of the Executive Commission of the COP15 at the Ministry of Ecology and Environment of China. Our third panelist would be Mr. Zhu Xian, Vice President of Chief Operations Office of the New Development Bank. Welcome, Ms. Chu. Our fourth panelist will be Mr. Kleber Soares, Assistant Secretary for Innovation, Rural Development and Irrigation at the Brazil's Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Supply. Our fifth panelist will be Mr. Fan Shengang, Chair Professor of China Agricultural University. Then we have Mr. Juan Gonçalves Valero, Head of Sustainability and Responsible Business at Syngenta. And then we have Mr. EGD, Specialist and Senior Engineer at the Foreign Environmental Cooperation Center of the Ministry of Ecology and Environment of China. So to start our debate, I would love to hear Ms. Andrea Alvarez trying to, and as a context, I think it's extremely important that we need to build what is sustainable agriculture and biodiversity. How to do that, thinking very broadly in different sectors, considering different realities from countries. So I would love to hear Mr. Andrea Alvarez. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Thank you very much, Ambassador Luis Augusto, Ambassador Yang Wanming. Thank you to the Brazil Council for the invitation to be in this very important event. It really is an honor to be here with such prestigious fellow speakers. As some of you may not be familiar with our history, I will briefly go over a few facts about Natura. Natura is a multinational Brazilian cosmetics company and one of the leading direct selling companies globally. Since 2018, we've increased our operations globally and created Natura & Co., a multi-purpose driven group made of 4 iconic beauty companies, which since 2020 integrated Avon to the group that already was comprised of The Body Shop and Aesop. Currently, we operate in more than 110 countries with over 3.7 thousand stores, 35,000 employees, and 8 million representatives and consultants globally. We're united in the belief that we can nurture beauty and relationships for a better way of living and doing business. And we're also very proud to be the world's largest B Corp. With over 50 years of history, Natura is present in 10 countries with over 6.9 thousand employees, 2 million consultants in Latin America, and almost 600 company-owned and franchise stores, as well as a growing online platform. In 2014, Natura became the first publicly traded company to be certified as a B Corp. We believe that its value and longevity of our company is connected to the ability that we will have to contribute towards sustainable development in the different societies where we operate. So our commitment to the environment, to the social well-being of our network, and to sustainable business practices have really permeated our entire history. Our name already evoked this commitment since its foundation, but it was reinforced in 1974 when we adopted the direct sales as a business model, given its shared value design that not only creates a source of income for many women, but offer other aspects of well-being such as health, education, and independence. So we also anticipated in decades a debate that is more current than ever, because in the 70s, we started to invest in research to expand the use of natural ingredients in our portfolio. In Brazil, we were the first cosmetic company to launch refills for our products more than 35 years ago, with the objective of reducing the waste generated from the use of our packaging. Over the following years, we continued to evolve in our commitments with investments in education and the development of regenerative business models based on our relationship with communities in the Amazon. We've also been a carbon neutral company since 2007. This journey took shape over time and guided our business strategy until we reached our 2050 sustainability vision launched in 2014, in which we established the challenge of generating positive financial, social, cultural, and environmental impact by 2050, with quite ambitious targets already for 2020. This huge challenge not only inserted in our strategic planning choices and actions to reduce the impact of our activities on the environment, but it also makes us see the social environmental challenges as business opportunities. And for that, we need to conduct impact valuation of our businesses so that we can decide where and how to best invest our resources. were actually pioneers in Latin America by adopting the environmental profit and loss in 2014, which measures the impact of our business on the environment. For over 20 years now, the Amazon biome is one of Natura's main innovation vectors due to the importance and respect for all existing lives in the region. We were pioneers in developing products based on Brazilian biodiversity with the launch of Eco's line in 2000. It was the beginning of a business model that seeks to enhance the standing forest economy based on the union of science, nature, and traditional knowledge, thus establishing a virtuous circle based on what we call socio-biodiversity. The positive impact is an essential part of this cycle, ensuring shared value between communities, consumers, and the planet. With that in mind, in 2011, we launched what we called Natura Amazonia program, with the goal of creating a model through which the Amazon would no longer be exclusively a supplier of raw materials, but instead would reveal the value of its vocation for technology and its culture. Since then, we've reached good results, very solid results, more than 60 million reais distributed in benefit sharing since 2011, 2.1 billion reais in business volume generated in the Amazon region, over 60 social biodiversity chains and 38 bioingredients incorporated in our products, income generation for more than 7,000 families from agro-extractivist communities. We've also contributed to the conservation of 2 million hectares of forest in the Amazon in partnership with supplier communities, non-governmental organizations, and the public sector. We know that today about 60% of the Brazilian territory is occupied by what we call the legal Amazon. And we know it provides essential ecosystem services for the climate, agriculture, and the well-being of the population by protecting the soil, regulating the rain system in the center-south of Brazil and other regions of Latin America, and acting in the capture and storage of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. The Amazon forest is an asset that enables Brazil to play a leading role in the global sustainability agenda if we choose to support forest-based bioeconomics, strengthening local and traditional communities, and maintaining the standing forest. It is fundamental to prevent the advance of climate change by retaining about 10% of the planet's stored carbon, and the Amazon has recorded increasing rates of deforestation. At Natura, we believe firmly that it's vital that businesses work to address this global challenge. In that sense, innovative nature-based solutions represent the best alternative for combating nature loss, social inequality, climate change, and protecting the planet. That's why over the years, we've been investing in regenerative solutions, including regenerative agriculture, an approach that conserves and restores biodiversity and ecosystems, generating quality of life through the means that are fair and inclusive. As a recent example, I'd like to talk about a pioneer project that we are very proud called Safdende. It's an agroforestry palm project. As is known to all, palm oil is one most widely consumed vegetable oil in the planet, but its mostly widely employed cultivation model is monoculture. And it's frequently associated with the deforestation of tropical forests, loss of biodiversity, pollution from the emission of greenhouse gases, and soil contamination from the use of crop defense products. Countering the belief that palm oil cannot be cultivated together with other species, since growth and production will be jeopardized, a pioneer research conducted by Natura in partnership with Embrapa and the Canta Cooperative in Tomé-Açu in the state of Pará in the north of Brazil showed that the opposite is true. Agroforestry systems present high productivity as well as generate environmental services such as the provision of food and raw materials and the mitigation of the effects of climate change. The research called Safdende also indicates that the palm agroforestry system can be profitable for the producer, enabling the cultivation of other species besides palm over the course of the year. Our palm experiments began in 2008 with the implantation of 18 hectares of demonstration units in the area of 3 agricultural producers in the municipality of Tomé-Açu. The composition of the palm agroforestry is highly diverse and includes forest land, the original environment of the palm. Production via the system permits the inclusion of other crops such as cassava, banana, pepper, cocoa, and the local fruits of ingá, açaí, and bacaba, as well as timber, helping to diversify the producer's income. In 2017, new areas were implanted among the local family producers, totaling about 60 hectares. After 20 years of research, here are some of the results. So with a smaller number of plants, palm plants per hectare than conventional forms of cultivation, the palm agroforestry reached higher rates of productivity, yielding 180 kilograms of bunches of fruit per plant compared to 139 kilograms in monoculture. The yield, the oil yield from the palm fruit was also up 57% versus monoculture comparison, based on direct measurement from the fruit. Cultivation of that system also was based on agroecological stewardship with no crop defense products and using organic fertilizers, live coverage, and liquid biofertilizers. The major differential of the project led by Natura is the cultivation of diverse species, including trees, together with the palm. The regenerative practices adopted have resulted in greater fertility and a higher stock of carbon in the soil, reaching up to 50% more than in monoculture systems. Agroecological stewardship also favored greater diversity of microorganisms, varying from 92 to 238% more compared to monoculture. And these microorganisms exercise biocontrol over pests and diseases. The storage of carbon in the soil, as well as carbon credits, are important products of agroforestry, helping to mitigate the impact of greenhouse gases on the planet's climate. The conversion of one of the experimental secondary forest units, which is called capoeira, increased the average volume of carbon in the soil from 31 to 47.5 tons per hectare. In the palm agroforestry, the annual average increase of carbon in the soil exceeded recommendation of the International Cooperation Program 4 per 1,000 initiative by over 28%. So the project also showed the potential to increase the well-being of the producer, because in the agroforestry system, the average temperature is 5 degrees lower than in the external environment, ensuring thermal comfort as well. We know that these new solutions are incredibly challenging and that these are complex issues. However, we also humbly acknowledge that we will not be able to get there alone. So for us, the domains of a company do not constrain its areas of focus. We invite, therefore, other players, our partners, competitors, other companies, academics, and NGOs to take part in this dialogue in order for us to find solutions to expand these experiments and other regenerative-based solutions that we have identified of benefit sharing and that respect social biodiversity can be amplified, and we can all benefit from an Amazonia region that is conserved, developed, and productive. Thank you very much. Back to you, Rodrigo.
Thank you very much, Andrea. It's an extremely relevant example of how to build new solutions, as you just mentioned, and to harness innovative models of production connecting social and environmental agendas to people. And we have a lot of people in the Amazon, and how to build these win-win solutions. It's challenging, but it can be done, as you just mentioned. Thank you so much. Now, I would like to call Mr. Wang Jingzhou, member of the Executive Commission of the COP15 of the Ministry of Ecology and Environment of China. And just to remember all our panelists that you have 8 minutes to do your presentation. So we will be able to have time for a debate at the end. Please, Mr. Yuan, you have the floor.
好的，谢谢主持人啊，尊敬的大使先生、各位嘉宾、女士们、先生们，大家下午好、上午好。很高兴有机会向大家介绍一下生物多样性公约第15次缔约方大会的情况，并就可持续农业与生物多样性话题与大家交流。COP15 将于今年10月在云南昆明举行，中国呢是东道国和主席国。此次大会主题为生态文明，共建地球生命共同体。国际社会高度关注 COP15 的筹备进展，希望中国发挥关键领导力，将 COP15 办成一次扭转全球生物多样性丧失的历史性会议，推动生物多样性保护迈上新的台阶。COP15 将在总结2011至2020全球生物多样性战略的实施情况的基础上，共商2020后全球生物多样性框架，为今后10年的全球生物多样性治理引航定向。生物多样性面临的问题广泛涉及经济、政治、环境、健康、安全等多个领域，需要政府各部门和全社会的共同参与。2020后框架作为 COP15 大会的重要标志性成果，目前已完成了前期的区域磋商和初步的全球磋商，形成了明暗文更新稿，但距离各缔约方达成共识还有一定的差距。现在距 COP15 大会还有不到半年的时间，框架磋商进程正在紧张的推进。近期正在举行科兹附属机构第24次会议和执行附属机构第3次会议。按照会议的安排，5月24号将讨论生物多样性农业议题。在 COP15 大会之前，还将举行2020后框架不限名额工作组第3次会议。中国正在和公约秘书处和缔约方一道，积极的推进大会的磋商进程，为大会成果达成凝聚共识。农业生物多样性是粮食安全和可持续发展的重要保障，也是公约关注的重要专题领域。从 COP2 到 COP14， 历届 COP 都有针对农业生物多样性的讨论，并作为成果纳入大会的最终决定。具体的关注点从最初的遗传资源保护和可持续利用，到后期的多维度议题，包括传粉媒介、土壤生物多样性、国际贸易、粮食和营养安全、能源安全、人类健康等话题。然而，农业生物多样性的保护和可持续利用仍然面临着严峻的挑战。2010年，公约缔约方在日本名古屋正式通过了2011至2020生物多样性战略计划及其爱知目标。其中与农业生物多样性相关的目标是爱知目标7，该目标提出到2020年，农业、水产养殖和林业覆盖的区域实现可持续管理，确保生物多样性得到保护。该目标包含3个组成要素，分别是可持续农业、可持续水产养殖和可持续林业。然而，在2019年 IPBES 评估显示，该目标的总体进展有限，其中可持续农业和可持续水产养殖进展有限，可持续林业进展中等。具体来说呢，自1970年以来，虽然农业生产力、渔获量、生物能源生产和原材料开采均呈上升趋势，但所评估的自然对人类贡献的18项指标中有14项呈下降趋势，其中大多数是调节功能和非物质供给功能。在全球范围内，越来越多的地方栽培品种和驯化动物品种正在消失，农业生产仍然是全球生物多样性丧失的一个主要驱动因素之一。在后疫情时期，全球生物多样性保护的意识高涨，2020后框架为我们携手解决全球生物多样性丧失问题带来了机遇。在总结爱知目标实施经验的基础上，正在磋商的2020后框架将农业生物多样性置于了重要位置。临案文中所列的20个行动目标，除了行动目标9直接将可持续农业作为目标以外，其他的行动目标如土地利用变化、过度利用、污染、气候变化、外来入侵物种等，均与农业生物多样性相关联。在此呢，我想以中国的政策和实践经验为例，结合正在商议的这个行动目标予以阐释。生态规划和生态恢复是应对土地利用变化、降低生态系统温室气体排放的有效途径。中国将农业、生态、城镇统筹考虑，开展了国土空间规划，划定了生态保护红线、永久基本农田和城镇开发边界3条控制线，落实最严格的生态保护制度、耕地保护制度和节约用地制度，出台了生态系统保护与修复2035远期规划，持续开展退耕还林还草、三北防护林建设、山水林田湖生态保护与修复工程。为了促进野生动植物的保护与可持续利用，防控外来入侵物种，减少污染和促进可持续农业，中国出台了 全国农业可持续发展规划，先后实施了化肥和农药零增长行动，农作物种质资源和畜禽遗传资源保护与利用，长江10年禁渔、公海休渔、加强外来入侵物种防控等行动计划和工作方案。当然，我们也重视有机农业、生态农业、景观生态等良好做法，并支持有条件的地区开展了相关实践。考虑到全球人口膨胀和粮食需求增加，提高土地和其他农业土产品的利用率，缩小生产力缺口，增强农业生产的可持续性和韧性，保障粮食安全和营养安全，仍然是农业发展的优先事项。未来，农业生物多样性的保护与可持续利用需要加强以下几方面的努力：一是推动农业生物多样性政策的主流化，将生物多样性纳入国家和部门的政策规划以及生态保护与恢复行动，鼓励全社会参与，采取可持续的农业和林业做法，协同应对土地退化、污染防治、气候变化、生物多样性丧失、减贫等全球挑战。二是加大对农业遗传资源的保护和农业科技的投入，加强对农民、农资企业的技术引导，提高土地、水资源、化肥、农药等农业土产品的利用效率，确保粮食安全和农业生产力的可持续性，降低农业生产对环境的压力。三是加强国际合作和农业领域的优势互补，完善国家和区域的农业生物多样性监测与评估体系，鼓励企业和金融机构参与生物多样性的养护与投资，优化全球农产品的供应链。谢谢主持人，谢谢。
Thank you so much, Mr. Yun Jinzhou. It is extremely relevant to hear from your view as China, how China is seeing the COP15 taking place and bringing the example of restoration as one very important agenda that should be decided as a global target towards promoting sustainable biodiversity in the future. I now would like to call Mr. Zhu Xiang, Vice President and Chief Operations Office of the New Development Bank, to bring some views about the role of development banks in addressing biodiversity conservation and its projects. Please have the floor, Mr. Zhu Xiang.
Thank you to the moderator, and also good morning, good evening, good night for all the panelists and the participants. I'm very delighted to receive this invitation and to participate in this panel discussion. Sorry? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please.
Okay, thank you. And I'm very delighted to participate in this panel discussion on the biodiversity conservation and agriculture development. Must say I'm not expert on diversity conservation. However, with my career working in the World Bank for a long time, but now over the past 5 years, working in the New Development Bank, which was headquartered in Shanghai, China, I want to share with you some thoughts, particularly about the roles and multilateral financial institutions could play in supporting diversity conservation, including, of course, my own bank, where I was a vice president, chief operation and officer. I think over the past decades, biodiversity has become increasingly important on the global development agenda, and also some impressive progresses have been made. However, and on the other hand, population growth, demand for food security, urbanizations, and other human activities have made biodiversity conservation somehow more challenging, particularly in the emerging market and developing countries, where I think there was still a lot of challenges, issues, problems in terms of public awareness and of urgency, lack of financial resources, and also inadequate policy and environment and the regulatory framework. We must recognize that support to biodiversity conservation is very urgent and also by nature and should be largely seen as a public goods and services with global dimensions. So international community need to increase its efforts, and also all multilateral financial institutions such as the New Development should play much more and proactive role in supporting developing countries on biodiversity conservations. I think that by my experience, particularly in the World Bank, a lot of multilateral financial institutions have already provided support through their operations in the emerging market, developing countries, such as providing substantial support on biodiversity conservation, and including the financial resources, especially long-term and concessional resources. And also by doing so, I think that effectively leveraging on private sector resources. Secondly, I think that multilateral development banks could also help developing countries in the areas of making necessary research, situation assessment, and the risk evaluations, and the standards setting, and also promotion, of course, of good practices. I think that in addressing biodiversity protection, one critical issue in the context of development would be how to find a way effectively to make development, economic growth, and biodiversity conservation complementary, not as conflicting one against the other. For the important areas for biodiversity conservation and the continued efforts or stronger efforts by all the international community members, and also including the multilateral development bank, to focus on, as other panelists just indicated, agriculture, forestry, fishery, marine, and other natural resources management, as well as addressing the other important aspects, such as the pressures from urbanization and the losses of arable land, so that we can really, on a more sustainable basis, in addressing such. In order to be effective, I think that we need to provide also strong and viable alternatives to the traditional farming, for example, and try to promote green agricultural practices and complying with the high environmental and social standards with regard to infrastructure projects, construction, so on and so forth. Let me now turn to potentially the role New Development Bank could play in this area. New Development Bank was established 5 years ago by 5 BRIC countries, including China and Brazil. We focus by our mandate mostly on sustainable infrastructure. So far, we have already provided close to $30 billion to all 5 member countries in the areas such as sustainable energy, transport, urban development, and other things. I think looking forward, we certainly want to focus much more on climate change and the green agriculture, logistics, and the transport, so on and so forth. We also think that as China and Brazil are very important trade partners, particularly in the areas of agricultural commodities, we also want to find a way we can also provide the support, particularly on the sustainable infrastructure and also for biodiversity and protection. I think that a lot of areas we can discuss together where that we can be more effective providing our support, including the financial resources into the biodiversity and conservations in our countries, particularly China and Brazil. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Mr. Zhu Xian. You brought one of the hot topics on the agenda at the biodiversity framework negotiations, that is finance and how to integrate finance to support this new path towards sustainable development, considering biodiversity. Thank you so much for your presentation. Now, I would like to call Mr. Kleber Soares from the Ministry of Agriculture of Brazil. Please, Kleber.
Muito bom dia a todos, muito obrigado, Rodrigo. Muito bom dia aos meus compatriotas brasileiros. Boa noite, Ni Men Hao, aos nossos amigos chineses. É um prazer participar hoje desse importante evento da relação que trata das relações em agricultura sustentável e biodiversidade entre duas grandes potências globais, o Brasil e a China, especialmente com os nossos amigos chineses, visto que a China é um grande parceiro na agricultura e na pecuária brasileira. Gostaria de oportunamente saudar o nosso ilustre embaixador Luiz Augusto de Castro Neves e a todos os membros da diretoria do Conselho Empresarial Brasil-China, bem como os meus colegas presentes nesse painel. Eu queria trazer uma abordagem em cima de duas perspectivas. O que o Brasil fez nos últimos 50 anos para chegarmos nesse momento de sermos uma grande potência agroambiental e quais são as perspectivas de futuro para os próximos 50 anos, especialmente no momento, e nesse ano de 2021, onde dois grandes eventos relacionados ao futuro da humanidade estão por vir. A Convenção da Diversidade Biológica, na China, nossa querida parceira, agora em outubro, e a Convenção da Biodiversidade, Convenção Quadro das Nações Unidas sobre Mudança Climática na Escócia. Nós temos um grande desafio em conjunto a enfrentar, a pobreza e o aquecimento global. E não temos dúvida de que somente apoiados pela sustentabilidade e inovação é que nós vamos conseguir alimentar o mundo, combater o aquecimento global, e nesse sentido, o Brasil e a China podem dar uma contribuição decisiva para o alcance dos objetivos do desenvolvimento sustentável e para a Agenda 2030 global. E é nesse contexto que eu queria abordar as perspectivas de segurança alimentar, da sustentabilidade e da inovação na agricultura e na pecuária brasileira, bem como as nossas contribuições para a Agenda de Desenvolvimento Sustentável. Eu queria começar abordando a problemática da fome e as contribuições que o Brasil tem dado para promover de forma sustentável a produção de alimento para a China e para o mundo. Atualmente, o Banco Mundial estima-se que até meados do próximo mês, o mundo terá algo em torno de 1,5 bilhão de pessoas numa condição de fome, dos quais cerca de 730 milhões de pessoas vivem numa condição de extrema pobreza, com a renda inferior a $2 ao dia. Mais uma vez, a pandemia da Covid-19 agravou essa situação e trouxe de volta mais de 100 milhões de pessoas numa condição de pobreza extrema. Nós estamos voltando a patamares do ano de 2017. Nesse contexto, o Brasil fez e vem fazendo uma revolução verde na produção de alimentos, especialmente nos últimos 50 anos, onde nós superamos o nosso problema de segurança alimentar e estamos contribuindo para alimentar boa parte do globo. Nas últimas, ou melhor, há 60 ou 50 anos atrás, o Brasil era importador líquido de alimentos. Isso prejudicava e muito o nosso desenvolvimento, tanto econômico quanto social. Mas queria destacar aqui, senhores, que 3 grandes fatores foram vitais nos últimos 50 anos e foram responsáveis para o Brasil chegar a ser essa grande potência que nós somos hoje em agricultura. O primeiro foi a tropicalização dos cultivos agrícolas. O segundo, a correção e o manejo adequado dos nossos solos e de forma sustentável. E o terceiro, nós conseguimos desenvolver sistemas agropecuários adaptados à condição climática dos trópicos e, sobretudo, integrados. No dia de hoje, para os senhores terem ideia, nós temos mais de 17 milhões de hectares plantados em sistema de integração lavoura-pecuária-floresta. Vale ressaltar que desde 50 anos atrás, nós utilizamos práticas conservacionistas do nosso solo. E notem que nós fazemos agricultura adaptada e resiliente às intempéries climáticas há mais de 50 anos. Como resultado dessa pujança de investimento em ciência, tecnologia e inovação na agropecuária brasileira, nós tivemos um salto de cerca de 400% sobre a nossa produção agropecuária e um aumento de apenas 40% sobre a nossa área de expansão agrícola no Brasil. Alcançamos nossa segurança alimentar e passamos a contribuir para alimentar cerca de 1 bilhão de pessoas na superfície da Terra. Exportamos nossos produtos agrícolas e, de forma destacada, alimentos para mais de 180 países. Em 2021, nós temos uma projeção de colher mais uma safra recorde de em torno de 273 milhões de toneladas só de grãos. E tudo isso é feito, senhores, conservando e preservando cerca de 66% do território original do Brasil. E, ao mesmo tempo, o nosso território contempla cerca de 20% da mega biodiversidade do planeta. E agora eu gostaria de abordar um pouco das nossas perspectivas para os próximos 50 anos. Nós estamos calcando em 2 grandes pilares o futuro da inovação da agropecuária brasileira. O primeiro tem a ver com sustentabilidade associada à bioeconomia e o segundo com inovação associada à food tech ou sistemas agroalimentares. Sobre o pilar da sustentabilidade e bioeconomia, eu quero destacar que trata-se de um eixo estratégico para alcançarmos e contribuirmos com os 17 ODS, que é absolutamente vital para a continuidade da nossa espécie humana sobre esse planeta. O Brasil lançou há 10 anos atrás o Plano de Baixa Emissão de Carbono, que visava exatamente ampliar a nossa agricultura resiliente, descarbonizante e adaptada às mudanças climáticas. Esse plano proporcionou aos nossos produtores um acesso a um conjunto de tecnologias tropicais altamente sustentáveis. E, de forma sucinta, eu gostaria de destacar apenas 3. Os sistemas de integração lavoura-pecuária-floresta, plantados sobre uma mesma área, onde isso permitiu com que, nos dias atuais, em determinadas regiões do Brasil, nós pudéssemos ter, sobre a mesma área, 4 ou 5 cultivos ao longo dos 365 dias do ano. O segundo que eu queria destacar é a tecnologia de fixação biológica de nitrogênio, onde, por meio dessa tecnologia, é possível capturar nitrogênio da atmosfera e reduzir o uso de fertilizantes nitrogenados. E o terceiro são as florestas plantadas. As nossas metas com esse plano era alcançar e termos em torno de 35 milhões de hectares utilizando tecnologias descarbonizantes. E após 10 anos, exatamente no final de 2020, nós superamos em muito essas metas e nós adotamos tecnologias descarbonizantes em mais de 52 milhões de hectares. Isso equivale ao território de uma Alemanha e meia. E os nossos compromissos não pararam por aí. Nosso compromisso com o Acordo de Paris era mitigarmos por meio só da agricultura o equivalente a 135 milhões de toneladas de CO2 equivalentes. E nós adotamos tecnologia e fechamos o nosso balanço em 2020 com a mitigação de mais de 170 milhões de toneladas equivalentes, utilizando tecnologias para a agricultura descarbonizante. E exemplos concretos do nosso compromisso em desenvolver sistema de produção e produtos agrícolas descarbonizantes, para não ser exaustivo, vou citar apenas 2. A tecnologia e o produto carne e carbono neutro, que foi o primeiro produto realmente, de fato, mensurável, reportável e verificável sobre a produção sustentável, e a recém-lançada soja de baixo carbono. Outro ponto que eu gostaria de destacar é o estímulo que o Brasil e o governo brasileiro têm dado à bioeconomia. No ano passado, em 2020, nós lançamos o Programa Nacional de Bioinsumos, que tem como objetivo estimular a produção e adotar práticas que promovam o uso de ativos biológicos na nossa agricultura. Hoje, nós temos mais de 400 produtos de base biológica suportando a nossa agricultura. A nossa perspectiva é uma taxa de crescimento do uso de bioinsumos na agropecuária brasileira da ordem de 13% ao ano. E, mais uma vez, eu cito apenas um exemplo de ativos de base biológica que está sendo amplamente utilizado no Brasil, que é a fixação biológica de nitrogênio. Na última safra de verão, aqui no nosso país, entre 2020 e 2021, nós plantamos mais de 42 milhões de hectares que utilizam fixação biológica de nitrogênio. Isso promove para a nossa agricultura uma economia da ordem de 14 bilhões de dólares pelo não uso de fertilizantes nitrogenados. O segundo ponto estratégico que eu queria aqui trazer, e para encerrar minha fala, diz respeito à inovação e agregação de valor por meio das tecnologias food tech. O Brasil é um país continental, como todos nós sabemos, e por isso nós estamos trabalhando muito forte na transformação digital e na digitalização da nossa agricultura. Nesta semana, a nossa ministra Tereza Cristina lançou a iniciativa de expandirmos as nossas redes 4 e 5G no Brasil e prover conectividade por meio de várias formas e de várias estruturas, tanto por fibra, quanto por satélite, tanto por torre. Essa infraestrutura em conectividade promoverá nós utilizarmos cada vez mais tecnologias digitais como inteligência artificial, aprendizagem de máquina, gêmeos digitais e computação holográfica. O objetivo nosso é estimular cada vez mais ciência, tecnologia e inovação e disseminar conhecimentos e práticas agrícolas contemporâneas aos nossos agricultores. Mas eu quero destacar também o fortalecimento do ecossistema de inovação no território brasileiro. Atualmente, nós possuímos mais de 20 hubs de inovação especializado em agricultura no nosso país, com a parceria direta com iniciativa privada, com think tanks, com empresas do mundo afora, inclusive com empresas e parceiros chineses. O Brasil conta hoje com mais de 2.400 startups dedicadas ao agronegócio. E com isso, nós queremos cada vez mais adicionar, agregar e capturar valor sobre a nossa produção, sobre os nossos produtos agrícolas, priorizando as tendências da agricultura contemporânea, produzindo alimentos de base vegetal, carnes cultivadas, agricultura vertical, fermentação de precisão, dentre outras e outras tecnologias contemporâneas. Senhores, essas são ações que, em síntese, o Brasil vem adotando para aumentar a produção de alimentos, preservar o meio ambiente e contribuir para a humanidade como um todo. A China é um grande parceiro do Brasil nessa jornada até aqui, mas nós queremos muito continuar contando com vocês para os nossos próximos 50 anos. Fizemos muito como brasileiros e como agricultores, não temos dúvida disso, mas juntos e com o apoio da China, podemos fazer muito mais pela humanidade. Muito obrigado. Xie xie.
Thanks so much, Kleber. It's extremely relevant to hear your presentation when it comes to defining what is sustainable use of biodiversity and how to build upon this sustainable use with innovation and science and cooperation. Thanks so much. Now, I would like to call Professor Fan Shengeng, Chair Professor of China Agricultural University. Professor Fan, please, you have the floor.
Good morning, my colleagues from Brazil, and good evening for my colleagues from China. Can you hear me well? Great. So first, let me thank you, the organizer, in organizing this session. Tomorrow, May 22nd, is Biodiversity Day. I think zooming on biodiversity is critical. Biodiversity is part of the system, of the food system. very critical part. And in the meantime, the food system also needs biodiversity. Biodiversity is our future assets. We depend on it for feed our population healthily, nutritiously, and sustainably. So what are the key elements that have the cause and loss of biodiversity? One is obviously, in general, our food systems. Our food systems are not sustainable. They use too much resources, and they do not produce healthy, nutritious foods for many. Yes, some do, but many do not have access to healthy, nutritious diets. In fact, 3 billion people don't have that access. And every year, many species, 100,000 species have been lost. And many of these are due to our sort of unsustainable practice of producing food, the food system approach. Then the COVID-19 is a wake-up call. COVID-19 severely damaged our food systems. So we needed to recover from the crisis. I think simply recovery is not good enough. We also needed to do better, rebuild better than before. So working with our other colleagues, International Food Policy Research Institute, Suzano University, Chinese Academy of Agricultural Sciences, Chinese Academy of Sciences. So we produced a report called a Global and the Chinese Food System Report, Policy Report. So try to bring every element together. How can we really reshape our food system to protect our biodiversity and to make sure that land water can be used more sustainably and to mitigate the climate change, to keep the planet temperature rise below 1.5 degrees. And of course, make sure that everybody in the world has access to healthy and nutritious foods. So together we propose 7 major shifts, policy shifts. So number 1 is to reprioritize agriculture research. In the past, the yield, increasing yield production was the major priority. But today, we must promote multiple win technologies through our agriculture research. Win in yield, win in nutrition, win in sustainability, and a win in climate mitigation. So future new technologies must meet all these requirements. And we have heard from Brazil, crop livestock mix system can generate good, healthy food, but at the meantime reduce carbon emission or even zero carbon, low carbon emissions. And here in China, the China Agricultural University have this called backyard or technology backyard. So the farmers will be able to work with scientists to bring the technologies to the farm field to reduce carbon emission, reduce the use of fertilizer, meantime increasing the production of healthy, nutritious foods. And then number 2 is to repurpose or reform the current agriculture subsidies. You know, globally, every year we spend $600–700 billion on subsidizing water, fertilizers, pesticides, output price. And these subsidies are not efficient. They do not produce healthy, nutritious foods. They also overuse water, land, pesticides, and fertilizers. They're not sustainable. So can we reform them? Well, we want to keep the money in the agri-food system, to use that money to promote the production of healthy, nutritious, and sustainable foods. So for example, to promote the technologies our colleagues from Brazil just mentioned, low carbon or zero carbon from the crop livestock mix system. And here in China, backyard technology. And probably we can do even better. Can we tax unhealthy, unsustainable foods? Again, use that money to promote the development of the value chain of food supply of healthy, nutritious, sustainable foods. And number 3 is to facilitate institutional change. If we wanted to use a food system approach to achieve all these multiple goals, then we need to bring different ministries together: agriculture, environment, health, maybe even more, finance, trade. We need to bring them all together. So here, we need a coordination mechanism from the very top. Let's say, can we have and it's a food system leadership group chaired by the top leader of the country, coordinated the action from different ministries so they can work together for the same purposes instead of cross purposes. And obviously, other institutional innovation also include setting up the social protection. I think Brazil has done that very well. Use Zero Hunger Initiative. I think China needs to do the same. Not just Zero Hunger, Zero Malnutrition Initiative to provide income transfer, food transfer to the people who are really in need. So that needs institutional innovation. And with that regard, we also need to make sure that women are empowered in the whole food system. Yeah, if you look at the players in the food system, from production, processing, trade, informal trade, to retail, wholesale, to restaurants, women are the majority of the workers in the food system, but they are not empowered. You know, many of them don't own the lands. Many of them don't have access to credits. Many of them don't have access to technical services. So we must empower the women by reforming, let's say, property rights, by reforming institutional mechanisms to make sure that they are empowered, they can benefit from the food system transformation. So number 4 is increase the investment in new infrastructure. Yes, old infrastructure is important, roads, telecommunication, and so on. But new infrastructure is e-commerce, digital agriculture. As the official from the Ministry of Agriculture in Brazil mentioned, all these new technologies can be a really game changer to transform the food system, to make them more efficient, more sustainable, that produce more healthy, nutritious foods. But they need investment. You know, many parts of the country, in Brazil, and probably to some extent in China, the internet penetration is still very low. The connectivity is not good. So in addition to connectivity, then the capacity, the contents of the e-commerce, of the digital services are also very critical. So my number 5 to propose big shift is to maintain open trade. Yes, China and Brazil here, we're talking about trade. We must make sure that trade remains open. The trade can optimize the resource allocation, even to optimize, let's say, the carbon reduction, because the carbon footprints from different parts of the world is very different. Brazil is very efficient in producing lots of tropical foods. But if China wanted to produce that tropical foods, then it will have lots of carbon emissions. So the trade is very critical to do that as well. But on the other hand, trade could also bring some negative side. For example, problems, it's shocks, natural shocks, climate change, droughts. How can we make sure that our trade system is resilient to make sure that everybody can have access to foods, either from global supply chains and the local supply chain. So there should be a balance between local supply and a global supply. And here from the Chinese consumers, they wanted to access to good Brazilian beef or soybean or chicken or other meat. But the Chinese consumers demand safe, good quality, maybe in the future even green, as the awareness is raised. So can Brazilians certify, let's say, their meat packers or their meat exporters? Okay, so low carbon, zero carbon, and build the brand, green brand here in China. And that's enormous. Opportunity is enormous. So the Chinese consumers can continue to consume, but in the meantime, they can also help to contribute to green technology, green value chains in Brazil. Now, the number 6 is to respect nature and to protect our wildlife habitats. The COVID-19 is really a wake-up call. It's a huge lesson for us because in the past, the interaction between human beings and animals have become very close because, we destroyed our forestry, we destroyed our natural habitats of animals, wild species, and then diseases from these animals can jump to human beings very quickly, to zoonotic diseases. We need regulation, we need protection. We needed to keep some proper distance to make sure that the incidences of zoonotic diseases can be reduced significantly over the next 10 or 20 years. Then finally, the number 7 point is to guide our consumers' behavior. We must make sure that we must know that what we eat, it matters to our health. It also matters to our environment. Climate change, the use of natural resources, and so on. So can we change our consumers' behavior or their preferences to reduce the carbon emission, reduce the environmental footprints, meantime safeguard their health? Of course, reducing food waste and loss is another important element of changing their behavior. So if we want to start the whole transformation, I think the transformation of consumers will be critical. And we are the consumers, we are part of that, and let's start from ourselves. So let's transform ourselves before we transform others. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Professor Fan. I think you brought very important pillars of all the puzzle we are trying to assemble together to build this transformation towards sustainable use of biodiversity and sustainable development as a broader picture. Thanks so much. Now, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Juan Gonzalez Valero. Please, Mr. Juan, you have 8 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much for inviting me, ladies and gentlemen. It's really an honor and actually a privilege to participate in this dialogue on sustainable agriculture, because I'd like to add maybe one dimension that we've not discussed so much. It is the role of innovation, and in order to move to a more sustainable agricultural system. The agriculture sector is a key priority of Brazilian and Chinese policy, and is fundamental not only to the food security of both nations, but also to the rural economy, the well-being of the population, and the conservation of biodiversity. And at Syngenta Group, that's my employer, we are one of the world's leading agricultural technology and innovation companies. We have around 49,000 people working for us in more than 100 countries, and we have a very strong presence in Brazil and China. And we strive to transform agriculture through breakthrough products, technologies, new innovations that play a vital role in enabling the food chain to feed the world safely and sustainably with respect to the planet, what I think is very important. But as mentioned by some of my fellow panelists, the agricultural system as we know it is vulnerable. It must cope with an increasing demand for agriculture produced for at least another 30 years. It has to adapt to a changing climate. It needs to respond to an ever increasing urban disconnect from agricultural production. That is actually one of the most impactful things that we can see, because it results in an ever increasing skepticism towards agricultural innovation and the need to provide the necessary resilience that is actually needed to provide the necessary resilience to the system. I think there's consensus that there is enough land available for agricultural production, both in China and Brazil, but still sustaining the fertility and productivity of the soils remains a key challenge. And farmers who actually manage the land need the tools, the technologies, the financial means to invest in regenerating land for long-term profitability. So higher productivity, carbon capture in soil, a reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, more diverse crop rotations, and providing constant soil cover, much more efficient use of crop protection and fertilizers, all lead, and this is common consensus, I would say, leads to better soil health and the protection of biodiversity and water resources. I think that's what many people today call regenerative agriculture. We've heard that a couple of times today already. but the adoption that is of the necessary measures by the farmer doesn't come for free. And that's the one point that is not very often discussed. It requires long-term investment by the whole value chain, including finance, trade, input technology, and the customer-facing food processing and retail brands. It also requires openness to address the environmental concerns and on the part of the farmers and the governments to secure a good market access in the future. China, and in particular Brazil, have a long tradition of agricultural innovation. And Syngenta has a long tradition in both countries of partnering with the national institutions, universities, farmers, in order to bring the innovation to fruition. Sustainable farming practices should be a priority for producers, not only because of the benefits they bring to the bottom line, such as increased productivity or reduced operational costs, but also because most of the farmers are aware these days that sustainability is a requirement of consumer markets, whether they're international or national. We are here to support growers and in the various needs and offer alternatives to increase sustainability and profitability in their areas, including the protocols that they need, the solutions, the technologies. However, if we talk about regenerative, we need to talk about net positive. And that means that for agriculture to become net positive for nature, meaning to maintain productivity, increase carbon in the soil, increase the diversity of soil flora and fauna, and conserving or rebuilding native forest and wetland habitats. These benefits need to be valued as much as the agriculture produce itself. And this is where we lack at the moment the necessary support. The economic incentive to regenerate and conserve is often not given. For now, the only functioning market for all those intended outcomes is the crop itself, the produce that the farmer produced, and maybe slowly an establishing carbon market. So in partnership with many like Embrapa, Mara, UNDP, universities, NGOs like TNC, Syngenta is actually implementing regenerative agriculture programs at scale that are committed to increase the profitability of farming, show that the business model of regeneration actually works, and improve soil health, soil carbon, and biodiversity at scale. One example from Brazil, our Reverto program aims at converting 1 million hectares of degraded land in the Cerrado in integrated crop and livestock rotation as developed by the ILPF network, with Syngenta as part of for many years now. The difficulty is to create the business model for the long-term incentive, because turning a degraded land into productive land is a long-term investment. And you need patient money to support the farmers to make it happen. And there's plenty of more land suitable for regeneration. And we hope to show that investing in these lands is a viable business proposition for farmers and the value chain to support the farmers in that endeavor. The program that I'd like to quote as well is in China. Runtian, it's situated in the breadbasket of China, and it aims at implementing direct straw incorporation and soil conservation measures on 2 million hectares of land, reducing greenhouse gas emissions and restoring soil health in support of China's national sustainability agenda. Here the same, the trick is how to finance the sustainable transition, how to get the money in the hands of the farmer to make a risk-free investment into the future. So these are two examples where we as Syngenta invest together with partners to regenerate soils and nourish biodiversity, build it into viable business models that allow scale for impact. And as Ambassador Yuan Wanning highlighted in his introduction, with more partners across the entire value chain, finance institutions and governments, we can do even more. So thank you for your attention, and I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you so much, Mr. Juan Gonzalez. you brought some extremely relevant insights, because how to finance this transition to everyone according to their needs and necessities and realities is something that is challenging at a broader scale, and this is at the table right now at the negotiations, which brings the integration of the private sector, the different stakeholders, the financial stakeholders, along with countries to really try to solve this issue. I would like now, thank you, Mr. Huang. I would like now to call Mr. E. Gidi, a specialist and senior engineer at the Foreign Environmental Cooperation Center of the Ministry of Ecology and Environment of China. Please, Mr. E. Gidi, you have 8 minutes.
好，感谢主办方的邀请我感到呢这次会议啊这个非常有意义。我本人呢也是在参与了生态环境部关于生物多样性的这个履行生物多样性公约的有关的政府的管理工作，和中方关于这个生物多样性保护的战略行动计划的编制这些工作。后来呢，我也参与了生物多样性公约下面企业和生物多样性的这个一个全球机制的这个建设。所以呢我也想就是就这个主题谈5个体会。第一点就是中国啊是这个生物多样性的大国巴西呢也是全球生物多样性这个最丰富的国家，所以中巴两国在生物多样性方面确实在全球都具有非常重要的意义。中国呢这些年那么大家举世大家都是意见是一致的，就是中国的环境现在越来越好，那么我们在建设美丽中国的这个方向上取得了非常好的这个进展。那么同时呢，我们在这个生态的保护方面，包括在国家公园的建设上，包括我们的大气质量、水的质量、土壤的这个质量都是大大的改善所以这个在全球的这个新增的造林当中中国占了具非常大的比例。所以其实中国对气候变化这个应对做了非常重要的贡献，所以在农林方面我们的这个碳汇其实的这个含量是非常大的。就是在生态保护和生物多样性保护取得这么多成绩的基础上，中国的其实粮食的这个产量，包括粮食的这个多样性的保护，其实呢也取得了非常好的成绩。所以我想就是因为我参与了有关的政府方面的工作，包括我也参与了有关企业这个对生物多样性的这个实践，所以我觉得呢这一点是非常好的成绩。第二个方面呢，就是我感觉到就是在推进农业生物多样性的这个可持续发展方面，那么其实我们有很多创新的这个案例和实践。那么一方面就是中国像刚才有那个代表讲到的，中国其实它的农业是非常历史悠久的，那么所以在农业生物多样性的方面我们有很多优秀的这个做法。那么现在呢通过这个疫情其实这个市民也非常希望能够吃到低碳的更加绿色的食物，所以现在我们有很多的企业就在离城市很近的地方，在不用农药不用化肥用我们这些多样性的，也就是说在本地的特有的粮食品种包括这个猪这个猪的品种都是本地的品种用它们来进行生产。那么它和城市的距离很近，所以呢这样市民呢既可以方便快捷的买到，同时呢它的这个产生的碳排放是很低的，同时呢还保护了我们的这些粮食作物品种的多样性这个牲畜品种的多样性。所以呢这些实践其实很多，但是呢就是这些生产企业和市民之间他们之间的联系 还不够。所以呢，其实这是我感觉到是我们现在面临的一个问题，就是我们中方呢其实也发布了关于这个推动，就是社会各个方面大家应该联合起来推动生物多样性可持续发展的工作，包括农业可持续的工作。在这一块呢，就是要农业的生产者和消费者还有投资者大家应该呢更多的交流有关的信息。所以今天呢中国政府提出来要进行高质量的发展，那么在农业生物多样性方面呢，其实消费者的选择希望更加多元化，也希望呢有更好的质量啊。那么在这一块呢，我觉得我们今天中国和巴西之间大家在加强交流，其实这个都是对我们既是一个机遇，但是其实也对相关的企业提出了更高的要求。所以呢我感觉到我们今天的这个合作呀，其实是超越了企业、政府，还要包括相关的投资者。所以其实在农业可持续发展领域像 ESG 的这个提出和联合国的这个 SDG 的这些，其实这些工作我们企业的实践产生的效益应该更多的让社会、让政府、让市场听到，让他们理解。那么这就需要我们更多的去进行这个经验的提炼、信息的发布、信息的传播。所以在这一块我感觉到其实像我从事的工作就是更多的是为生产者、消费者、监管者还有投资者，为他们提供一些技术上的打通技术上的一些难点为他们之间建立这个信息沟通的这个渠道，让大家能够获得大家都能理解的信息引导大家来做这个绿色的走绿色的道路能够找到绿色的合作点。我觉得这是我的这个工作的一个重心所以呢我也很高兴参加这次会议。谢谢。
Thank you so much, Mr. EGD. I think you brought also very important topics to contribute to the discussion, and I would love to bring some questions to the panelists, but I'm afraid we reach our time. I would just I would like to summarize some of the topics were presented by other panelists. I think there's the challenge to build the global biodiversity framework as a set of targets that will be able to connect countries, to connect private sector, different parts of the private sector, to connect the financial sector, to connect societies, academy, civil society, to integrate those actors into the challenge to build sustainable development, having biodiversity as a key agenda. Biodiversity is not just a beautiful park that you can visit sometime. Biodiversity is integrated into our daily lives, no matter how far we are from a park, for example, because we have biodiversity in our daily lives, sipping a coffee or wearing clothes and living. We are totally connected to biodiversity, and how to build these solutions to promote transformative changes would be extremely important. From promoting social benefits and connecting companies to local communities and indigenous peoples, and their knowledge, as Ms. Andrea presented, it's something extremely important to promoting technology and innovation and balancing sustainable agricultural systems, as Juan presented, and other examples that were brought to our attention, to really be able to get together transformative solutions to push biodiversity forward and not back. To finalize and open the new session, I would say that restoration of biodiversity, the possibility to adopt innovation and transform the systems and the practices we have right now, the connection of people with biodiversity and the reality, the more people are aware of its role towards supporting and promoting and transforming their actions, connecting to biodiversity, the more reach we will have as a society to really get to sustainable development, and the connection of the different sustainable development goals and with all the stakeholders, because we need not just to consider countries and their policies, but the stakeholders that are doing their businesses and generating impact or transforming its actions to promote positive impact, positive externalities. So having said that, I would like to thank all our panelists, and again, sorry for not having the time to do a set of questions, and I would love to open the next panel and invite Ambassador José Carlos da Fonseca, that will be the next moderator, to start the next panel. Thank you so much for your attention of this panel, and let's start the next part of our session. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Rodrigo. Nice job. Congratulations for a brilliant panel. I'd like to greet all those participating in this event since yesterday on Brazil-China Dialogue on Sustainable Agriculture, and also to congratulate the Brazil-China Business Council and the Institute of Finances and Sustainability for organizing such a timely and important discussion aiming at a sustainable future for our planet. My name is José Carlos Fonseca, and I am the Executive Director of IBA, the Brazilian Tree Industry, which is the association responsible for institutionally representing the planted tree production chain throughout Brazil, representing, therefore, from the planted forests themselves all the way to the different industrial segments, such as pulp, paper, laminate floor, wood panels, and an endless list of new bioelements and bioproducts. In this panel, we will discuss bioeconomy and circular economy. We'll discuss the ways to build a better future for the next generations with a new model to do business and the necessary actions to build a green economy and a low carbon economy. I have the honor to announce the participants of this panel in the order that they will speak. So I would call Jian Nanqing, who is the Secretary General at Committee on Green, Circular, and Inclusive of All China Environment Federation. Mr. Walter Schauka, the CEO of Suzano. Zhang Miao, founder and manager of R-Cubic, a social enterprise working on waste reduction and recycling. Jian Miao, as I mentioned, Cristiano Teixeira, CEO of Klabin, and finally, Liu Hu, representing the Huanlin packaging company. I remind all participants that each one of you will have up to 8 minutes for the presentation, and I ask all of you to pay attention to this time limit so we can have a few minutes at the end of this session for a nice quick question and answer discussion. And so without much further ado, I would invite Jiang Nanqing to present your views for our audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to join this panel discussion. My background is on environment sustainability and also plastic recycling and circular economy. Here I would just to give the overview of agriculture and just see how to I will share my just share on this about this agriculture and the relation with food and packaging and what's going on in China. In the past, we have seen there's a lot of challenges raised by plastic, especially single-use plastic, and food is the largest food packaging is one of the largest application of plastic packaging, and also with the change of people's lifestyle in China, there are more e-commerce developed very fast in the last decade, such as like China now we use a lot of these logistics service to transport fresh products. Like last year, Shunfeng has produced have made the order of 215 million orders of fresh logistic, which is amount about 1.2 million tons in the past, and also the packaging itself, the trend itself has also developed a lot, and the sustainability is one of the most significant trends for development, and also the consumer for food safety and the convenience is also one of the most important application, and also e-commerce is one of the largest application in China for food, and also China is also making a lot of technology innovation on packaging, especially like with e-commerce. There are more development like for packaging in mono material, and with these smaller packaging with these pouch packaging. They're trying to change these multi-layer packaging into mono material with and also with a small size. So we see now that the development like a plastic packaging is changing into using more HDPE and PET bottles, and also China is also having the flexible packaging developed very fast, such as for PP polypropylenes like BOPP and CPP, and they use lots of extrusion technologies, and also for PE polyethylenes like LDPE and are widely used as a film. So they are also have lots of these modified technologies used for single-use plastic. So we see now in China, the plastic packaging production has reached totally, like for flexible packaging, almost 24 million tons, which BOPP and CPP is also increasing fast in the past few years, and also for rigid plastic packaging is mainly HDPE and and also PET bottles. And also besides food packaging and e-business, there's lots of China use a lot of plastic in agriculture, such as use these mulch film, which is now the production is over 2 million tons, I think in around 3 million tons. That's also bring the problem of the recycling, of how to recycle these agriculture film, and also pesticide fertilizer bottles are also used a lot with these big agriculture production. So as alternatives, biodegradable packaging plastic are having more emphasized by the policy government, and also they're increasing like PRA, PBAT about these degradable plastic, but due to the technology and the restriction, the biodegradable like PRA, the production is still not very abundant to meet the market, which also the price is like 2 to 4 times compared with the normal plastic. So with the circular economy, as we see in the future, circular economy will about almost half 50% of greenhouse consumption. So reduction and how to prolong the longevity of products and the material, and also how to recycle them and how to decompose them is still the key issues. In China now, we have the largest recycling business industry in China, and also these for agriculture, these renewable materials. They're also the circular economy is also getting into these the business into more degradable or decomposed, and then also into the biogas. So the value chain also changed a lot with the policy development after China banned the imported of waste plastic, but which raised the cost of plastic, the source, and now so the whole industry is getting into how to utilize the low value plastic, and then how to make the high value added recycled products into like automobile fibers, buildings, and also trying to get into the bottle-to-bottle applications, but which now the policy regulation is still the largest challenge. And also China with the past like 2 decades of this waste of plastic development, China also developed the largest recycling manufacturing business in the world. Now we have the whole the supply chain, like equipment and the processing technology, which is dominated in the media and the low stream, but for high technology is still mainly dominated by European technologies. So now we are looking at how to expand the value of recycling plastic for more social goods, like such as like education, how to have more for the kids, and then how to improve for health and climate change, and how to engage youth for the in this development. Yeah, that's what I share with the work of packaging and agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jian Nanqing, for a very interesting presentation that clearly shows China in the right path, as we will see that Brazil is also doing its effort along the same direction. I now pass the floor on to Walter Schalke, the CEO of Suzano, for 8 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much, José Carlos. I would like to welcome our colleagues from China. Thank you very much for joining us on the session on Friday evening. Thank you very much for our colleagues here in Brazil as well. Good morning to all of you. I would like to welcome the words of the Ambassador Yang Wanming in this morning when he joined the session and opened the session, when he mentioned about the possibility that we have to enhance the relationship between Brazil and China. I would like to tell to everyone that I'm very pleased to hear that we have a lot of collaboration that could be in place to enhance the relationship. I would like to welcome as well when he mentioned about the combination of innovation and sustainability, what we call innovability in Suzano. There is a possibility that we have the bioeconomy transforming the life of the world population and the world economy. And as well, when he mentioned about the green financing, we believe that this could be a possibility to monetize value through sustainability. Ladies and gentlemen, now I think it's time to call for action. We cannot postpone anymore the situation of greenhouse emission in the world. We have been growing the greenhouse emission, and despite leaders, the private sector, and the nations of different parts of the world mention about the race to zero in 2050, we cannot procrastinate anymore the situation. Now it's time for action. We need to do something right now to revert the situation. And I would like to bring to your attention several ways to do it, because this is our generation responsibility. We cannot postpone anymore. We cannot leave this to the next leaders of the world. We need to do it right now in order to keep the next generations safe for better climate situation in the future, and avoiding major disturbance on the climate change. We think that we need to do it, and the planted forest in Brazil is in the right side of the equation, and I mentioned to you how we think we can do it. First, I would like to mention that we are absorbing carbon. We are carbon negative or climate positive. Last few days, Suzano announced our major KPIs that is in our website about all the efforts that we are doing in sustainability. And I'm very pleased to mention to you that last year, considering our emissions scope 1, 2, and 3, we more than offset that, and we had a negative carbon emission or carbon sequestration of 15 million tons of CO2 emission last year. And I think it's not only us. it's all the Brazilian forest industry that is doing the same. Because at the same time, we are planting trees, and the other side, we are recovering degraded areas and regenerating degraded areas with natural forest. Suzano is planting 1 natural tree every 2 minutes, and we are planting 500,000 trees every single day. I'm going to reinforce that, 500,000 trees every single day. Just on our planted area in Brazil of Suzano is 1.5 million hectares, and all the area preserved by our industry, not only Suzano, all the industry, it's more than 5.9 million hectares. There is larger than Rio de Janeiro state that we are preserving in Brazil. But we need to do more than that. We need to go out of our fences, and we need to preserve the Amazon area as well. We would like to raise our voice to preserve the Amazon forest and avoid illegal deforestation that now represents 97% of the total deforestation in the Amazon. We need to do it right now. We cannot postpone anymore this situation. And we need to use the carbon sequestration that we have in the Amazon to generate credits to be traded on the regulated market that could bring and solve the social problems that we have for 25 million people on that specific regions. But our trees that we are planting are more than that. We can use not only to sequestrate carbon or to produce pulp and paper, but to replace other fossil materials as well. From the tree, we can have the materials that can replace all the textile industry. This industry can be replaced by trees in the future, and viscose is one example of that. We have another technology, there is MFSC, with a Finnish company called Spinnova that we understand that could be entering this market as well in the future. Then trees will replace polyester or polyamides on the futures. But from the trees, we can have biofuels as well. From the trees, as we mentioned before, Mrs. Young mentioned, we can replace flexible packaging. We can replace disposable products. And this is a possibility that we need to change and impact the world, not only with 2 billion people that Suzano is attending every single month, but we can reach all the population sequestrating carbon. We are approaching COP26, and we are approaching COP15 in Kunming as well, the Biodiversity Convention. It's time for action. It's time that the private sector, jointly with the public sector, jointly with different nations of the world, we can hold our hands, because this is a problem that is not related with one region, one sector, one country, is related with everyone. Then I would like to invite everyone to join on this process, to try to mitigate the effects of the carbon emission, to try to solve the problems that we have right now and have a better world for the next generations. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Walter Schalke, for a very clear call for action with this message of no more procrastination. This is important, and also the concept of innovability. We now pass the floor on to Cristiano Teixeira, the CEO of Klabin. For 8 minutes, Cristiano, please.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you all. It's a great pleasure to speak with you. It is probably the better channel to talk directly with our brothers and sisters from China and work together for this special moment of our planet. I would like to share now few information about Klabin and also about our sector. talk a bit about the circular economy. I think we all have a lot of information to help each other in this journey. Here is just a few information about Klabin, just to know who we are. We were founded in 1899. We have over 25 people working with us, and we are in the middle or under construction of a new project we call Puma 2, and we are going to be 4.6 million tons of market pulp and paper after this project in 2023. We are doing two phases. The first phase will be launched on July in 2 months, and the second phase in 2023. So this is a picture which talks by itself, shows a bit what we are, and I think this is what we call mosaic system, and I think you can realize that we are operating with planted wood in between of the native forest, keeping the fauna and flora, keeping the biodiversity like it was for always. This is another perspective showing the Brazilian map, just realizing that we are 2,500 kilometers from the Amazon biome. It's a huge country. It's important to make this point to all of you. This is another perspective of Klabin. We are recycling close to 500,000 tons of CC. So we are integrated. We have the forest, we have the pulp, we have the paper, but we also produce package. But we go and collect this package. We are collecting this 500,000 tons of OCC in Brazil. And with that number, we are the largest recycler in Brazil, which shows exactly what the circular economy is and what we have to do, all the sectors. Of course, the pulp and paper sector is doing by his own purpose, but there is no discussion that every sector has to analyze your circular economy and act directly on the chain, going to the end customer and do the investments to help on the collection. This is not a work, this is not a mission of one person, but it's a mission of the whole chain. Here I bring to you what we call a local support that we do where we operate, okay? And of course, in Brazil, in a country with a social distance, it's important to also help and support the communities where we are operating. Here I explain to you the carbon balance of Klabin. It's very important to make it clear. We are emitting CO2 like everyone, but we also are retaining. When we do reforestation, when we do our operation, we also are sequestrating, we are storing the CO2. But so when you do the balance, we are what we call Klabin's positive carbon balance. So in 1 year, we can storage 4.7 million tons of CO2 equivalent, or in 10 years, 45 million tons that we will sequestrate from the atmosphere. Klabin has committed to set the science-based emissions reductions with the SBTi. This, I bring to you some recognitions and commitments of Klabin. And now I try to align the opportunities between the two countries. I think it's a great opportunity to talk directly about what we can do to help each other, and aligned with the China megatrends, waste ban, for example, we can show what we can do with our papers. Here's another way to show a bit about Klabin. We are doing over 30 R&D partnership around the world. And this is a photo of our Klabin Technology Center in Monte Alegre, Paraná. So Klabin goals is to develop more circular economy, projecting, of course, with our customers, developing with them, and try to help the reduction of single-use plastic. We do believe that paper has an important mission on that road. Thank you all. Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you very much, Cristiano. Very interesting presentation as well. There's no need for IBA to say how proud we are as a sector of having companies of this high quality, such as Suzano and Klabin. Congratulations for both of you. I will now pass on the floor to Jiang Miao for 8 minutes, please.
大家好，我是张淼。这次我会跟大家讲一些有关中国的塑料污染控制的政策相关，还有绿色包装的一些相关的内容。但前面的2位分享者都已经介绍了关于中国的最新的禁塑令，是在去年的时候，中国发布了新版的禁塑令，那会在2025年之前逐步的淘汰一些一次性的不可降解塑料生产的一次性物品。那在这个文件里面也特别的强调，我们禁用的是由不可降解塑料生产的一些一次性的用品。这就导致现在我们已经可以看到，比如我们在去咖啡店或者是奶茶店的时候，已经可以发现一些吸管是由纸质的吸管或者是可降解吸管、可降解的塑料生产的吸管。另外一些生产可降解塑料的企业也反映，今年由于新版的禁塑令，他们的订单也大幅的增加。但是这个是有大家比较熟悉的一些商品，这种一次性的使用的商品。但实际上，中国为了控制塑料污染，有一个更大的政策的框架。比如为了去减少源头的塑料产生，除了禁塑令之外，那还有无废城市的政策，包括禁止了一些固体废弃物的进口，包括在这个快递的包装上，我们也会禁止尽量的去减少快递产生的包装，去鼓励一些绿色的包装的产品。而在我们大中的城市，我们的垃圾的收集和处置已经比较好了，但是在一些农村地区，可能这个收集还不太好。那农业农村部也会去加强在农业地区的这个垃圾的收集，同时也会做垃圾分类，然后同时建立更好的这个废品的回收的体系，包括这个生产者责任制 EPR 制度的建立，这些都会帮助塑料污染的一个控制。也会有不同的部门去管理在地表水还有海洋的一些废弃物。因为我们今天的主题是与农业相关的，那我接下来与农业，然后 主办方也希望我讲一些关于包装的内容，那我会重点去说一些关于农业农村部和邮政总局下面主管的一些相关的政策。农业农村部它同时也主管渔业的部门，所以关于渔船上的垃圾的管理以及这些废弃的渔网的管理都是归农业农村部管的。另外有一个很重要的政策就是关于农业薄膜的管理办法，the control of the used agriculture film， 鼓励研发推广农业薄膜的回收技术和机械，然后也会鼓励去开展农业废弃的农业薄膜的回收再利用，同时鼓励和支持生产使用全生物降解的一些农业薄膜。而在邮政总局，他们会去负责推广一些绿色的包装，尤其是快递上的包装。例如，他们今年有一个2582工程，然后会要求年底使用可循环的快递箱达到500万个，然后电商快件不再使用2次包装的比率达到80%等等。今年他们在未来他们也会去修订一些新的这个快递的暂行条例，包括制定农产品邮递服务和包装的要求，这些都是跟我们的农业是有一定的相关。另外，主办方也希望我讲一些在14.5的时候是否有一些相关的举措。目前关于这个塑料污染的14.5的方案，我们现在还没有看到，但是在整个全国整体的这个14.5的方案里面有提到一些关于塑料污染的方面，例如有提到我们要加强塑料污染的全链条防治，另外还有要加强废弃物品的回收的体系的建设，同时拓展生产者责任延伸制的覆盖范围，推进快递包装的这个减量化。然后也重点提到了要治理农膜的污染，提升农膜回收的利用率，还有推进秸秆综合利用等等。那基本上我们的政策会有这样4个方向，一个就是加强收集，然后这个原材料的替代，促进回收，还有生产者责任制。对于绿色包装上，其实有2种模式，一种是这种运送模式的这个替换，比如我们不再使用一次性的包装，而是使用这些可以反复使用的包装。另一种方式就是原材料的替代，比如前面反复的提到，我们不要使用这种不可降解塑料生产的这个包装物或者是一次性用品，那么我们就可以使用可降解材料，或者现在也有还有一个比较传统的替代物就是纸张。现在我们也看到有一些新型的材料是使用农业废弃物甚至是动物的一些原材料去使用的，比如有一些使用蘑菇作为原材料，使用玉米做原材料，还有菠萝的皮做原材料生产一些材料。但是这些新型的材料往往不太成规模，还不能够大规模的替代。一个很重要的原因是因为这些农业废弃物的原材料的话，它的收集是比较困难的。另外有一种绿色的包装是生物基材料 bio-based plastic， 因为它是有一些玉米或者其他的这个植物的材料去生产的，但是它可能未必是可降解的。所以虽然它也算一种绿色包装，但是它可能不能够实施在替代不可降解的塑料上去。以上就是我主要的分享内容，谢谢大家。
Thank you so much, Jean Miao, for your exposition. Very interesting as well to see how important we are seeing progress in China. So very interesting. Congratulations. I now pass the floor on to Mr. Liu Hu for 8 minutes, sir.
Wait. 哎，帮我的把 PPT 放出来了。哎，各位同事，晚上好。就我今天晚上讲的，就跟巴西2位同事相关的。巴西做纤维的，我把纤维的有些增加它的功能性。一个我的现在研究的方向是纤维的改性，改性以后的有些哪些功能，改性后的产品的应用，现在有些做出来的产品有些解释，延续下去第2章。就我首先介绍我的纤维的改性。下去，改性呢，我的大概方向是用我们的玉米啦、甜菜啦、木薯啊，进行一个糖化，糖化以后再接枝出来的一个功能性材料，我们这跟纤维就结合以后做出来的那些产品，它在整个的纤维的结构方面，结合能力方面做一些修改。达到一些功能性。我们这种材料呢，做出来的生物降解性是全生物降解性的，就是它不是去工业堆肥，是生物在自然界的家庭堆肥，所以就是自然界当中自然降解的材料呢，符合欧盟的标准，我们都检测过的。降解性满足欧盟的工业堆肥啦、非工业堆肥都可以达到，符合 EU 的指标的。由于食品现在主要是食品包装方面有些功能性需求达不到的，用纸浆，我们的这块完全符合立体纸浆的，平面纸浆我们早就可以做到的，这就是我们做立体纸浆。我们的重金属含量也是很符合这种欧盟跟美国的那个标准的。然后，这改性以后的功能的展示。第一个，普通纤维呢是与弱氢键结合的，我们改性以后，它增加它的强烈键去结合。第二个，我们有个摩擦视频，等下往下去可以放出来。有个不做改性的。跟做改性的两个纸制品呢相差很大的，高温浸泡测试，我们就按照GBT 36787-2018的进行测试，将那个牛油跟牛肉这块的高温测试200度的，一般的不进行这个改性呢，它产品会产生变形。一个作为改性以后呢，它将那个牛油跟牛肉。在高温下都不会产生变形的。一个低温，还有一个低温测试。低温测试我们也是按照这个国标去测试的。我们在零下-25度冷藏72个小时以后，放置提出来以后，放置在23度正负2度，在65%正负5度的湿度环境下解冻3个小时以后，如果不做处理呢，它那个产品的马上就会变形的。我们做个分子结构的处理了以后，它的解冻以后，它这个产品不会变形的。往后翻了。改性以后的产品应用，这个是我们一个刚才是一个摩擦测试。这块可以拉到我们的视频以后，可以你们就现场观摩这个视频，我不是可以播放出来了，快速播放。
没法播放，我们能就继续往后。 可以吗？
哦，继续往后了，没法播放往后了。这个我们是一个研发中心做那个高温测试，高温测试以后，这个是整个4年的图片。一个是如果我们不做处理的整个的纸浆模塑，它有会明显的因渗跟渗漏变形。如果做了这个纤维的处理以后，就没有因渗，没有渗漏，不会变形的。这种我们目前的4年温度最高是125度跟150度2种的条件下都没有变形的，都没有渗漏的。就是我们整个用纸浆可以用到很多的，把功能扩展了以后，用途就扩展的很广。这个我们跟巴西这个纸浆纤维的这些同事以后，可以不断去探索在世界各地在这块的发扬这个纤维的改性以后，这个应用范围扩展它。往下了，这个是我们在做一个冷冻这块的，这个刚才是高温，我们低温进冰箱进冷库，我们一般是零下25度，持续冻了72个小时以后，拉出来，在23度近负2度下，湿度是65%的环境下，解冻3个小时以后，观察它那个餐盒，观察它那个包装盒，它整个都不会变形的，也不会渗漏，就是说明在低温条件下使用已经完全符合条件的，它不会去粘结其他的产物，就是纤维的转移系数很低，几乎用肉眼看不到的这种，就是可以达到塑料甚至超越塑料的那个使用范围的，对吧？往下。这是我们一个应用场景的整体的图片，现场观摩的图片可以看得到的。这个还往下，这个我们现在改新的产品检视有哪些？我们有餐盒啦，有那些，往下了，有那些那个咖啡杯啦、餐盒，饮料杯。就还有一些汤碗，有些碟这块的酒店用品的，还有一个我们在国内使用到的打包盒，往下，国内的用到打包盒的，现在外卖的，这些都在用这块的，这就是我们整个的改新以后的做出来的立体的纸浆的产品应用。我的发言就到这里，谢谢。
Thank you so much, Mr. Liu Hu, for your quite interesting presentation. We have a few minutes left to try to engage in some discussion. I would start by asking Mr. Schauka. Suzano has just announced a huge new investment in Brazil, a new very large pulp mill in Mato Grosso do Sul state, in the west of Brazil. We started to look at trees planted in Brazil like eucalyptus and pine as true biorefineries. In other words, we can extract renewable and biodegradable raw material from them for thousands of products. What's the limit for this industry? With technological and innovation advances, what will be our role in society in a new economy, Walter?
Thank you very much, Zé Carlos, for the question. We believe that the future will come from the trees. We need to enlarge the number of planted trees and recover degraded areas as well. We believe that pulp on a different dimensions, not only devoted to the paper grade market, but as well to the other applications, we create a new addressable markets for the wood. We believe that Klabin and other players in Brazil are doing extremely good job as well. And we believe that Brazil will become even more competitive for the future. We believe that with this dimension, we could create a different export market for Brazilian industry.
Thank you very much, Walter. I was just told by Claudia Trevisan, thank you, Claudia, that we have a few extra minutes, so we'll certainly have time for more questions. I would now go to Cristiano Teixeira, if I may. During COVID-19 pandemic, we have noticed a huge increase in online orders and e-commerce, which consequently increased the circulation of packaging of all types. In this scenario, Cristiano, paper packaging has a great differential, as we have seen in some of the presentations today, because it is renewable in its origin, recyclable and biodegradable. Klabin has just increased its investments in the Puma II project, as you mentioned, a huge one. This demonstrates the company's view that this market still has a lot to grow. What advances are still possible to make paper packaging unquestionably the best option to, for instance, single-use plastic products? Thank you, Cristiano.
Thank you, Ambassador. We have to invest more on biobarriers. The paper can replace most of the single-use plastic solutions, but not all of it. And the plastic is very important for the whole planet. I mean, if you go back to the 70s, plastic helped many of the industries in the world. But for single use, it's not the better solution. Paper is the better solution. We have to recognize that. Of course, if we have to bring the other fibers to the market, as the fiber from the wood is doing a good job. If we bring another fibers from nature that can do the same job that the paper package is doing, it's going to be I mean, great solution for all of us. But right now, what we have in front of us, paper solution, it's better for single-use plastic comparing the renewable, the circularity of each product. So this decision to convert the second machine in the second phase of Puma II from a container board machine into a coated board machine, we did that because we believe that coated board is replacing, for example, just to pick one example, the stretch of the six-pack package for beers or beverage. When you do this replacement only for this product, we realized that coated board were probably the largest use for six-pack solutions on beers. So all the retailers prefers today to use coated boards than stretch or plastic. So we are very happy with the decision on the second phase of Puma II.
Thank you very much, Cristiano. Liu Hu has raised his hand. You have the word, the floor. Liu Hu?
现在
OK。
你好。现在我想跟巴西两位同事以后看看在纤维这块的到纤维的应用，改性扩展，我们多多交流，多多合作。巴西两位同事，看看我们以后在这块留下联系方式，我们多交流这块的纤维的改性应用，扩展在中巴的合作这些方方面面的开展下去的嘛。我的发言就到这里了。
Thank you, Liu Hu. Certainly, we want your contact, and I'm sure the Business Council will, after these 2 days of engagement here, make a good round of sharing information, sharing the presentations. But as we are speaking to you, Liu Hu, let me ask you a question. In your vision, does the motivation for this substitution of fossil fibers originate already nowadays mostly from a consumer demand, or is it still driven by company planning and the academic world planning and scientific based planning? Or would you say that the consumer is now also very concerned with these matters, right?
这样的，这种在国内消费者已经很认可了这种产品了，我们已经有一部分在使用在这块的，还有一个我们是跟湖南工业大学，其他的大学在合作，政府牵线搭桥，把这块的产业在建立一个中国包装的重镇，叫桥头包装重镇，在打造这块的，国家提供了一个10年平台给我们。 去全程的运作这个纤维改性的包装，代替塑料的，我们全就是以纸代塑的发展方向。这里，我发展到这里。
Thank you very much. I would now pose a question to Jiang Nanqing. China has been a major trading partner for Brazil, especially for the planted tree sector. In 2020, 7.4 million tons of pulp, market pulp, were exported to China, almost 50% of total of Brazilian pulp exported in that year. China has just announced its program to zero CO2 emissions by 2060. And the sector has sustainability, our sector has sustainability as the central pillar of our operations. Is there, in your view, how large an opportunity in the horizon you see to advance Brazil-China cooperation if we consider the forest-based products? Jiang Nanjing.
Yeah, I think Brazil has a lot of nature forest products. I think China needs a lot of these nature resources as we lack of forest. So we want to have more contacts with Brazil, and then to have also like some more technology exchange, like how to utilize these fiber technology in in our as a substitute to our plastic, and also more like for packaging, which we have a lot of demands like for single-use plastic. And also we want to have more technology. I think there are also lots of good technology in Brazil, like in these plant fiber biomaterial. I think China now, the technologies are still under research, and I think there should be more products and applications and innovations. I think we before we haven't really have much more communication with Brazil in this area, and I think in this area now we really would want to have more communications and on circular economy, and for biodegradable, but doesn't mean cannot be recycled. So I think this can help China to reach more carbon reduction in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your reply. I would now make a question to Jean Miao. In Brazil, there is a growing concern by the end consumer with, as we have seen in some of the presentations, with what comes to his table, to his home, and especially now after the pandemic or during the pandemic. So as a result, paper packaging has emerged clearly as an environmentally more sustainable option. In China, would you say the same phenomenon is quite present, right? So this opens up large horizons for paper use in the coming years? This is my question to you.
Yeah, so many people will think paper is more environmental friendly than plastic. But if we consider the carbon emission, if both are single use, both cannot be recycled, paper carbon emission of paper is more than plastic. So we need to consider it in many ways. For example, if both are single use, maybe plastic is better. Plastic causes less carbon emission. But if the paper can be recycled, for example, most plastic bags cannot be recycled, but the paper bags may be recycled. Then it's going to be better. So when we talk about environmental friendly, we need to consider many aspects. But I suggest the area like ocean beach, because many waste cannot be collected very well, maybe released into the ocean or into the water. In that kind of condition, paper is better than plastic. So still, paper has a very good market under the new plastic ban policies.
Thank you, Zhang Miao. I'm sure the observation you raised will ensue some comments by my fellow Brazilians here, Walter and Cristiano. But just to add a brief comment, is that in our view, the footprint of our operation to produce paper is so much climate positive, and the recyclability and the biodegradability of paper products are so evident scientifically that we are quite confident that paper products are here to stay and are the products for the future. And we keep planting and harvesting forests, and at the same time preserving native forests. Just to showcase in our situation in Brazil, we plant around 9 million hectares of forest destined to industrial and commercial use, whereas we preserve almost 6 million hectares in native forests throughout different biomes in Brazil. So this balance we are striving to make every day more and more sustainable is something that makes us very confident that paper has a brilliant future. I don't know if Walter and Cristiano would like to add something.
Please, Cristiano, feel free to bring some information on that.
Oh, I just would like to add, Ambassador, that I agree, and I like the way that Miss Zhang Miao see the situation, which means recyclability must to happen. I mean, this is the let's say the main stream of our thoughts here. When we have this recyclability rate going up to 90%, 85%, even to plastic or even to single-use plastic, I do agree that I do believe that for single-use paper is better than plastic, but for the rest, I do believe that that recyclability rate of today, it's not good enough. It's like less than 10%, comparing to paper, for example, which is close to 80%. So we have to balance to really trace the equilibrium of the recyclability of the plastic.
I think our products, Ambassador, they are recyclable they are renewable and biodegradable. The combination of all three dimensions will bring to the forest and to the wood a potential substitution of other materials. Of course, this is a kind of a technology that we are going to have more maturity in the coming years. Nothing is like innovability. Is not you are not going to have a silver bullet on that, but it's something that is going to increase in the next coming years. We believe that from the wood would have the potential to replace different materials and bring a better quality of life to the society. You are without, you are mute.
Thank you very much, Walter, Cristiano, and Jean Miao. We still have a couple of minutes. If any of our panelists want to pose questions to each other. If not, I would draw your attention and our audience to the closing comments here. We have in the chat box many questions, many observations, many quite positive remarks, considering that our panel, as well as the previous ones, yesterday and today, have come to their, have reached our goal in providing a platform to exchange views, to compare notes, to engage in fruitful and substantial dialogue among our communities in Brazil and in China on a wide range of issues related to this ever so more important agenda of sustainability and of ESG, precisely in tune with what the world society needs now. The pandemic has shown us, albeit dramatically, that we can no longer postpone very strong action in terms of mitigating climate change, avoiding the loss of biodiversity. So the combination of the different approaches we have seen in this panel, in the other panels, is part of the story we have to write, of the history of the future we are now engaged in writing together for the coming generation. So I once again would like to thank for this honor of moderating such an interesting panel. We hope to keep in touch and do a true consequential networking with all participants in the coming weeks and months. And we look forward to other opportunities such as this one. Congratulations once again to the Brazil-China Business Council. Congratulations to Claudia Trevisan and her team in organizing this. This is quite a large endeavor, putting together so many people in different time zones and all. And congratulations to our chairman of the council, my old colleague and friend, and also former professor, Ambassador Luis Augusto Castro Neves, to whom I now pass on the word, together with Mr. Ma Jun. Thank you so much. And Ambassador Castro Neves, you have the word. You have the floor.
Thank you very much indeed for your kind remarks, an old friendship. So your concepts about myself must be adapted to that old friendship. I would also like to thank all the participants of the Brazil-China of this seminar. As a matter of fact, it was a very fruitful exchange of ideas and initiatives, and certainly it will have a very positive impact in the cooperation between China and Brazil. On behalf of the China-Brazil Business Council, once again, I would like to thank all the participants in this first Brazil-China dialogue on sustainable agriculture, which is a which has a growing importance in the international agenda. I especially thank our sponsors, Bayer, BRF, and Suzano, for their support, and we hope to have many more similar dialogues in the future. I would also like to thank the partnership of the Institute of Finance and Sustainability and Dr. Majun, a leading actor of green finance in China. Majun, thank you very much, and the floor is yours for your final remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I should also say thank you to all the participants of the two sessions yesterday and today, which was hugely successful. We covered a range of topics, including green finance, sustainable agriculture, biodiversity, and circular economy. Certainly, I learned a great deal, and my colleagues from China also learned a great deal. And I guess we also created some business opportunities already, just listening to the conversation we had half an hour ago. I think between China and Brazil, we can make a huge contribution to global sustainability because fighting climate change, protecting biodiversity, and dealing with other environmental challenges are the common goals of China and Brazil. And we have the capacity to do so because we are the largest agriculture trading partners. As I learned yesterday from speakers, China and Brazil potentially can produce 50% of the global agriculture products. And we should produce them in a way that's sustainable, that's protecting the environment, protecting forestry, and protecting biodiversity. And there are also mutual benefits from further collaboration beyond sustainability. For example, China has a demand for food safety, and will continue to import a lot, probably more from Brazil. And Brazil needs China collaboration in terms of further purchases of your products, and hopefully more Chinese investments in the sustainable agriculture sector to help create jobs in Brazil. So we need to further explore opportunities for action in collaborating in the area of sustainable agriculture and using green finance as a supporting instrument. Now, let me specifically mention a few possible areas for collaboration. One is that China should buy more sustainable agriculture products from Brazil, which can be supported by green finance instruments, such as green supply chain financing tools. And as I said yesterday, we had a good example of a few banks supporting COFCO and Syngenta to purchase agriculture products in a sustainable way from Brazil. And we need to look for ways to expand such operation by engaging more Chinese banks and possibly New Development Bank and other banks from the world. And as I spoke to Marcos, the president of NDB, and also Mr. Zhu Xian, the vice president of NDB, it seems that they are quite interested in working with Chinese banks on such operation. And the second opportunity is that there are good projects in the sustainable agriculture space in Brazil, which I noticed from a few presentations yesterday, such as zero carbon beef. And I think these are opportunities that China investors and companies should consider taking equity stakes by making direct investments. And I suggest that CLAC, which is China Latin American Cooperation Fund, begin to look into such opportunities and maybe helping organize other Chinese corporates and investors to explore equity investment opportunities in Brazil. And my third suggestion that we need to find ways to label and verify and advertise sustainable agriculture products from Brazil in China, so that they are made more well-known among Chinese consumers, and they possibly can be sold at a better price than the current pricing. In supporting that, I have one more proposal, which is really for the governments, namely the Chinese and Brazil Ministry of Agriculture. Can they start thinking about mutual recognition of zero carbon agriculture products between China and Brazil. For example, if China can recognize the zero carbon beef from Brazil as the sort of standardized China zero carbon products, and the same thing can be given to Chinese products by Brazil, I think then the selling, marketing of these products in both markets could be made easier because they got government backing or recognition or endorsement. Now, in terms of specific ways for enhancing collaboration, I do suggest, as I said yesterday, we should have regular dialogues organized by China-Brazil Business Council, and we, Institute of Finance and Sustainability, will certainly happy to help organizing such a dialogue in the future. And secondly, maybe some agencies from Brazil or the Brazil-Chinese Business Council can thinking about creating a special office or have a special team specialized in marketing Brazil opportunities to Chinese investors and firms. I'm not sure if your council have an office in Beijing with a few people working on such marketing activities. And we, the IFS, can certainly help with your roadshow if you decide to do so. And one more idea is what we're doing already under the IFS. We are setting up a green technology project database, which will cover China and the foreign green tech projects and green company projects. And also, yesterday I mentioned the Green Investment Principles for the Belt and Road, which were launched by China Green Finance Committee that I chair, and also City of London. This principle, with a secretary in my institute, is also setting up a green project database. So both databases are hosted by us, namely the IFS. And I think Brazil projects can think about utilizing these databases as a way to promoting such projects to potential investors from China and from other members of the investment community from the world. So once again, let me conclude by saying thanks to all the participants of the last 2 day session. I think it was a great success. In particular, my thanks to Ambassador Castro Neves and your colleagues, and the China-Brazil Business Council, of course, the speakers and the moderators. I look forward to seeing you again in not very distant future and possibly in similar dialogues. Thank you again. Ambassador, can we now call the close of the conference?
Yes. I make my words the same as the Majum, so we are in total agreement. Let's work together from now on. And it has been an extraordinary experience for me. I did learn quite a lot attending the seminar yesterday and this morning in Brazil, this evening in China. I think that we can establish now a more continuous contact in order to find new opportunities for cooperation and overcome the challenges that lie before us. So therefore, once again, thank you very much to all of you, and looking forward to meeting you in other events of the Brazil-China Business Council and our correspondent in China, which is the Chinese chapter of the Brazil-China Business Council, which is controlled by the Chinese Council for International Investment Promotion. So therefore, thank you all, thank you all once again, and I hope to see you soon again. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day. Have a good weekend. Bye.
And have a good evening and a good weekend too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.